Okay, good evening. My name is John Wega. I'm a candidate for the Sheriff of Adams County. And I'm a certified deputy here through the state of Pennsylvania. I've been serving with the Sheriff Office for 12 years. I started in March of 2013 as a volunteer. I was a volunteer chaplain. And in 6 months, the Sheriff had asked me to become a deputy. He said, you'd be a pretty good deputy. At 50 years old, I went to the Pennsylvania Sheriff Academy for 5 months, was elected president by my peers, and won the law award through that process. It was a great time, learned a lot, 760 hours. It's kind of like a boot camp, and I really learned a lot. Since then, I was promoted to corporal, ran the court operations and supervised the deputies, promoted to sergeant of operations, now I'm a lieutenant of operations. Spent the last 2 years revising and creating a policy for the Sheriff Office which really aligns well with our job and our duties. It was quite a process, and we pretty much rewrote what was given to us as a police policy, and we had to take it and edit it, rewrite it to make it appropriate for a sheriff office in Pennsylvania. It's one of the things I'm very proud of. Going forward, it's going to be a great basis for going forward with the sheriff's office in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you guys for coming out. I greatly appreciate it. Like Mr. Royer and Mr. Ecker said, I know there's probably other things to do on a regular Thursday night than come and hear us talk. But it's my understanding you guys want to understand the why, right? So the why. Why am I here? Why do I want to be here? It all started in about 2000 when I joined the wrestling club. All right. So everyone says, well, how's that all come together? I was a decent wrestler, but I wanted to become better. So what I did is I put myself in a position with a group called Y at the Well. I became an instructor, teaching young kids. That was part of my why. Why? I want to give back to my community. As we evolved, I went into the military. I graduated in 2005 from high school, and I went in the military 2006, November 17th. Ask me how I know that, because I have to say it every time I log on to the computer for the military. I advanced pretty quick in my rank. Currently, I hold the rank of a Master Sergeant E8, and I did it all before I was 40. I've gone through all of my leadership courses, basic, advanced, and senior leadership courses. My why evolved in 2005, where I became a police officer for Ocean City, Maryland. This right here is my letter of accommodation for saving this man's life. That was my why. Why do I want to give back to these people? Why do I want to give this service? This right here is Fred. Fred died in 2013. I provided him 5 more years of life. In that same exact year, my why grew again. I was the officer that found an IED in a car. The individual driving the car was going to throw that bomb inside of City Hall. That individual that I did a traffic stop on, he actually told the investigator that he had a knife underneath the seat and he was going to stab me right through my vest if I didn't call for backup. Told them that. That's my why, because I want to protect every single one of you. So as it evolved, I came back home. I'm still in the military, and in 2018 there was a young lady who lived right up the street from us who was killed. She was murdered right up the street in Peach Glen, Idaville Road. Many of you have heard it. Many of you have probably seen the case. That gentleman walked across my driveway several times, did he not? We watched that man walk freely amongst us, and that's concerning for me. I didn't have the authority at that time to say, who is this guy, what is he doing, I've never seen him. My why evolved from there to where I am today, where I became a constable. Every single day, that's an elected position that I take seriously. You're not going to see me up here in a suit and a tie, no offense, that's not me. I'm in jeans because I'm just like you. I want to protect your rights, and I want to be out here and make sure that every single one of you have the option to see. You'll see tonight that my training, knowledge, and experience has led me here to protect your rights.
Thank you. You can sit and get comfortable if you like.
I'm comfortable.
Okay. We'll start with John. How do you plan to keep the sheriff's office running smooth when budgets are tighter than a drum?
How do I plan to keep the office running smooth? Well, that's a big question, in fact, as far as operationally. I think part of the aspect of running for sheriff or voting for sheriff or any office is more like really hiring a person. And one thing that's interesting about the sheriff office, like many things, we learn from different things. You learned about sheriff's office on Barney Fife, and you learned about movies and TVs and things like that, most of which really isn't accurate. So we have an image of what the sheriff might do, but many of you may not know really the expanse of what we do. So running smooth really is largely a business operation. My background working for corporations and worked for biotech and high-tech industries. And you may wonder how that applies, but really as far as running smoothly and efficiently, my latest job that I had in biotech was growing a company from $4 million to $20 million in 3 years at places like NIH, pharmaceutical companies, training PhDs and things like that. So training people, managing budgets, growing money and being creative to do that took a lot of wherewithal, and it's provided me a lot of experience in operating a business, which is a large part of the sheriff. The sheriff office has 20 employees, 16 are sworn deputies, 4 administrative staff, and we do a lot of things, not just knocking on doors. In fact, serving warrants is probably the smallest part of what we do. That's what's on TV, it makes the headlines, but it's a small part. In fact, we serve more warrants in court by running for people that are actually coming to us, safely serving the warrants and seeing that they're administered and taken care of. It's not really just a service to you, but it's actually a service to the people. So some of them get a monkey off of their back. So running the sheriff's office efficiently ties into a couple things: helping you to understand the job. And my experience at the sheriff's office has been at all levels. I've done things to help improve the efficiency already with no cost to it, to increasing the budget, like bringing more computerized operations, computers being used to run for those warrants in the court.
Okay, your time is way up.
Okay, I didn't know I had a time on that.
I've been back here doing this, and you can just.
So we have, is it 1 minute?
When I do this, yeah,
I was looking at my other friend.
That's okay.
right,
Sorry
it's
about
okay. And I'll have to repeat the question.
Absolutely. I was hoping
Okay.
so.
How do you plan to keep the sheriff's office running smooth when budgets are tighter than a drum?
Absolutely. So you want to talk about,
60 seconds
training
or less.
knowledge, and experience. Like John said, he has some business background. I also have a small business. I understand gross revenue. I understand profits. I also understand what a tight budget looks like. Being a small business owner myself, we have over 1,000 billable hours, and I take care of over probably 65, 75 constables throughout the course of Pennsylvania. And our gross revenue from since we started 2 years ago was $2.3 million. So I understand what tight budgets look like. That training and knowledge that I bring to the table to see how effective things are smoothing, there's always explored options. So what are we doing good? What are we doing bad? And what can we improve on is what I'd be looking for when we talk about how can we operate more effectively. So that's what I want to look at. There's always a third-party option. For instance, third-party transports. There's other options in that. And I plan to go down that road when elected sheriff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Josh, do you think there are enough, too few, or too many deputies?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we're already facing a crisis in law enforcement right now. Nobody wants to be a cop. Nobody wants to go down that road. We're already, four deputies short? Is that what you would say, 4 deputies? Okay, so 4 deputies short, roughly. With that being said, while I've been out campaigning, I actually had 3 people who were qualified, based on what the current qualifications are, that openly suggested that they would love to come and work for me. So with that being said, I think we have just the right amount for what we're doing.
Okay, thank you. John, under 60.
What's the question?
Do you think there are enough, too few, or too many deputies?
Well, when you talk about efficiency and things of what we've been facing, we have been seeing the courts growing. There's been more courts added over the past few years, where we added a new court building itself, which caused a strain on actual operations. In some ways, we do rob Peter to pay Paul, but I think that's going to really come down to some of the efficiency and being creative. And the number really of deputies is something that we don't have a lot of control over. I think what we need to do is balance out the operations of how we're using them more effectively. And that's a long-term question to really answer as far as how many are too few. I wouldn't say less, because we're only facing more courts and
Okay.
than needs.
Okay, what's your approach, John? What's your approach to serving warrants and legal papers without stirring up a hornet's nest?
Well, coming back to learning what the sheriff's office does, most of the warrants that we serve are actually MD or money type of warrants, where someone has been adjudicated through the courts. Now they have fines and costs to pay. So they set up payment plans. The majority of warrants is people that can't make their payment, they get behind, they don't come to a contempt court. So that would be the majority. And thankfully, we don't have a lot of the high-level criminal warrants in Adams County. So we do a lot to do that. We do a lot to serve those, contacting people, having come into the office, do what we call a sign and release, so they can see the judge on the same day, get that worked out so everything is, they can move on with life and don't have something hanging over their head. But as far as the other warrants, that's one way that we serve a warrant without seeing that people are causing a hornet's nest, if you will. And the other thing really along that line is really professionalism. And the way you conduct yourself and talk to people is vital in not creating a hornet's nest.
Okay, thank you. Okay, what is your approach to serving warrants and legal papers without stirring up?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's going through a hard time whenever, a constable, for instance, shows up. Nobody's ever excited to see us and runs to our car to congratulate that we're here. But for Adams County, I have served over 7,300 warrants for Adams County since I started as a constable. I've never had one complaint, and I work for all 4 courts in Adams County. So with that being said, I treat people fairly, treat people honestly. I work with people. Often, I have given rides to individuals to make it to court on time. So no charge to them. They'll call me and say, hey Josh, I really don't want to get in trouble. Can you give me a ride? Absolutely, because you know why? I'm human and I don't want to see you fail. I've used this all the time is you make me more work when you fail. So I'm going to work with you so you don't fail.
Okay, thank
Absolutely.
you. Josh, what would your plan be to build trust with a community that's half rural and half a tourist trap?
Yeah, so it's challenging, right? It's understanding the individuals that we're working with and understand what we're dealing with. I'll tell you the one disappointment that I've seen on the campaign, and I love this campaign journey. It's amazing, by the way. It's new to me, but one thing that I've seen is just disheartening as I go and knock on someone's door and try to gain support and have you understand who I am. And I get one of 2 questions. How is this going to affect my concealed weapons permit? And the most disheartening thing is we have a sheriff's department, and what does they do? That's sad because that's a missed opportunity where we should be out there engaging with the community so you have a good understanding of who we are and what we do. And we need to broaden that, and we need to make sure that our town and our community knows who we are and how we operate and have that free flow of communication. So I intend on having and being at more events that are community events. Currently, I'm out at every possible event I can get to include National Nights Out.
Including tonight.
Including tonight.
Thank you.
It's important to be out in your community so they have that friendly face.
Thank you. John,
What was the question?
what's your plan to build trust with a community that's half rural and half a tourist trap?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it does create some issues and maybe some challenges where we have a lot of people traveling from out of town. But in order to really, I think the most safest community, and part of the sheriff's role, I think, is helping create awareness for people on issues to help protect themselves, educate, and perhaps even some training. And that's why in my campaign I'm doing a series of personal security seminars. I'm sorry I was late. We came from a seminar. We had a good turnout. Personal security, I think it's something that just not to talk about, but we're actually doing it. And it's helping create awareness and preparedness for people to protect themselves. And we talked about things like what is an RFID and how does that affect your key fob and how can you protect it? Travel, your home, different areas and aspects where you spend your life.
All right, this isn't a sales pitch for what you just came out of,
Well, I'm
just
telling
pertaining to you running as a candidate for sheriff.
That's-
So the next question, what is your stance on working with local police versus stepping on their toes? And the reason why I'm asking that is because I am aware that the chiefs of police have had, I think, monthly meetings for quite some time, and I don't think anyone from the sheriff's department has been there up until just this year. Maybe late last year, but it wasn't there previously. So, John?
Why we weren't at the meetings?
No,
The question?
no. What is your stance on working with local police
Oh.
versus stepping on their toes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the main areas that we intersect, and we do have limited powers as a sheriff office. We're not 24/7, we're not doing investigations, we're not dispatched to calls. But one of the areas we really interface, not just with the community, but the police, is the aspect of serving PFAs, protection from abuse. We do about 300 a year, so that breaks down to almost 1 a day throughout the year. And we have the primary role in serving those PFAs and working with the courts. It's one of the most important things that we do related to domestic violence. And really in helping us to understand the law, the Act 79 put in place by Governor Wolf in 2018, the stipulations, some of the changes he made, helps us to avoid those hornet's nests, because we can go out and effectively explain a PFA to a person, a defendant that may be evicted from his home, or maybe have weapons that have to be relinquished. Our professionalism and knowledge of the law helps to really quell a person from maybe emotions that are involved. But that's one of the areas we really do intersect and dovetail well with the police departments. And if need be, where we have a person that might work a day shift, he's not home until midnight, we will send it out to a local police agency or the state police to make an attempt on that, because it's vital that those get served as soon as possible to protect the parties involved. And that's one area where I've been the supervisor for the last 6 or 7 years over the PFAs and implementing and helping to do trainings and also systems that we use to be educated and professionally do those services. But I've never felt any kind of animosity from any of the local police departments on any type of interaction that I've had. I wasn't involved in the meetings at the chief of police.
Okay.
I was at the level that wasn't part of the meetings.
Okay, so Josh, same
I'm good.
question.
I got the gist of it. It's not about PFAs. What you're asking about is the simplicity of what am I going to do to build better relationships and how am I not going to step on toes. It's understanding that you're all in a pond, right? A law enforcement pond is what I say. Everybody has to be able to swim in that pond and effectively communicate and work collectively together. So with that being said, you know, when I first became a constable, the very first thing I did, I never really tell this story, but I'll tell it right now. I walked
60 seconds
I
or
walked
less.
in the state police building. I gave him my resume. You want to talk about being a wolf out there? That was terrifying. But I build trust. And I work with guys like that over there who are one of the best cops out here. I work with them to build that trust by gaining training, knowledge, and experience that they know they can contact me. They know what they're going to get. I'm going to show up and I'm going to take care of those warrants. It's not serving it from 9 to 5. I've been out at 2:30 in the morning. Anybody that watches my social media, I understand it's different because they're regulated. But at the same time, I'm out there working. Just like I'm out campaigning, I stopped what I was doing because I had a phone call that I had to go. For instance, today, I went to Hanover to transport somebody on a warrant. I didn't get paid for it, but it's the right thing to do because that's where you build that trust. That's where they know they can count on you. You got to show up every time they call.
Thank you. What is your, I'll start with Josh. What is your strategy for training deputies to handle everything from evictions to emergencies, and also knowing that there is a budget with the sheriff's department?
Sure, absolutely. It's a tough nut to crack because God love the commissioners. There was always in a tight area because we got to talk about training. How do we? It's a matter of selling training. How do we sell training? Well, it reduces liability and lawsuits. That's really what it comes down to. But how do we get good free training? There's lots of good free training out there that we can send a lot of these deputies to. For instance, NCTC, I've gone to a lot of their courses, nationally certified. We need to start putting some of these guys back into training to help these commissioners understand we can reduce that liability buck on the taxpayer. We can reduce the potential for lawsuit because the more we know, the better we are. And that's what I'm looking at as far as like NCTC, any grants. I looked at the grants that were given. We're at 2024, they had maybe $3,000 in grants. Well, we need to step that up. We need to start looking at these law enforcement grants. PCCD oversees the deputies program. Why are we not applying for some of these grants to get some of these deputies better trained, better equipped, better knowledge, and better experience?
Training. Yeah, I think we've been creative in training. I've been a taser instructor for 8 years, and what we've done is brought some of the training instructors in-house. One, it helps save us on cost. Instead of sending 10 deputies for a $300 or $600 training, we have one person trained as an instructor. Then we have flexibility. We can't afford on most days to shut the office down for everyone to go to a specific training. But having in-house instructors, we're going to say 2 deputies in an afternoon, we're going to train you. And go over a period of a week or 2, everyone gets trained. We've been able to do that effectively with the tasers. It's very important training, and it's one aspect and way we've been able to be creative to do that and save on the time, the budget, and also get the training done in-house where we don't have to close down for everyone. That's not reality with the operations that we have to maintain.
Thank you. You're first. As sheriff, how will you perform your constitutional, these are actually questions from attendees. As sheriff, how will you perform your constitutional duties for the citizens of Adams County when the state or federal governments, when they push unconstitutional rules against the voters who elect you? That's a long question.
That goes back to the Supreme Court judge favorite.
Pardon?
That goes back to the Supreme Court judge favorite question. Yeah, that is a big question. I think there's probably some implications or misunderstandings to the question, which gets carried away through the media and different things like that. But as far as upholding the Constitution, we take an oath to uphold the Constitution, and it's written. It's not going to be rewritten anytime soon. I mean, it's long-standing. It's what guides us, and there may get some You know, I think when people think about our constitutional rights, the main thing a lot of people are thinking about is our Second Amendment rights to have a firearm.
Right,
So in that particular regard,
I'll intervene here. I think there's been a lot of questions surrounding this particular thing, to be more specific. If the government were to just, I don't know, just lose its stuff.
I mean, I can,
And say that, you know, all the county sheriffs or departments in Pennsylvania, this is so far-fetched. You know, the sheriff's departments, you know, go door to door and start confiscating, you know, firearms. That's,
I don't think that's a realistic type of scenario. But in the regard
well,
of looking at,
the hurricanes down in
we do have-
Louisiana, it did
We do
happen.
have to, well, you start looking at certain laws like the red flag law, different things like that. And then you also look at, you know, people bring in the mental health issue, which is a big concern for a lot of people. But the biggest area that we intersect with that really is upholding the law for the PFAs. We do go out and we have to relinquish weapons for people in very specific parameters. We have to be able to cross the T's and dot the I's and do everything legally, everything right, very respectfully. We don't take sides in any of these cases. We're out there to make sure everyone is safe and carry it out and hold those weapons. When those things are expired, dismissed, the weapons are returned. We're doing a very good job of already doing that. And I haven't seen any big challenges for us to do anything otherwise as far as weapons go.
Okay.
I'll just
You
give it
wanna
a simple
answer?
for you because it's a really simple question. Is it a law? Is it a law? If it's not a law,
Correct.
I feel that there's a commissioner in here. I'm not sure if he'd answer, but unless it's a law, we're not going to enforce it. I mean, to that
Okay.
point, I'm not going to infringe on somebody's constitutional rights, and that's just what it is. I mean,
Okay,
if it's a law, it's a law. We're going to enforce the law
okay.
because that's what we do.
Thank you. Start with Josh. What can the people of Adams County expect from you in the role of sheriff? Please keep it short.
What can they expect from me?
We've got more questions.
They can absolutely expect transparency, honesty, integrity, all of the Army Corps values that have been embedded in me in the last 18 and a half years as a master sergeant in the military. Good core values. My family's supporting me here. If anything I take away tonight, I got a win because I was able to get my mother-in-law to come and support me. So that's a win, right? But you know, that's really what you're going to get. I mean, I'm an open book. I'm a guy in jeans just like everybody here. Transparency. I'm here for you. I'm just like you. I'm no different.
Okay, John?
You're gonna have a person with integrity that knows the job, has been operating the sheriff's office, and can continue to do that efficiently and improve it with creative business management type of skills. And if you go to my website, you'll be able to see my training record, also some of the things we're actually doing, like our security seminars and promoting fitness in the community, which is something I think the sheriff has an opportunity to do to see that everyone is safe and able to protect themselves.
Okay. If elected, John, if elected, what are some key changes you would like to see in the department?
That's a good question. When I become elected sheriff, I think we have some different things we could be doing. I think one is really bringing up our level of professionalism and standards, and that really begins with the policy that we took 2 years to write. Policy gets put into place, procedures get refined, standards get put into place. So we can standardize across the office, we can train people to those standards, and we can maintain that level of efficiency, and that's where you're able to build for the future with standards that aren't changing or interpreted on a flexing basis. So we started that with the policy procedures. We're going to continue to build on that when I become the sheriff, and I've been working hard to do that. I've learned a lot, and I've learned that we're not a police department, we're a sheriff department, and we had to rewrite the policy that Lexipol gave us to make it modified to fit the Adams County Sheriff Office here in Pennsylvania.
Can you repeat the question?
If elected, what are some key changes you would like to see in the department?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I want to look at is what the current rank structure is. I'm not saying it's incorrect, but I want to take a look at why we have a corporal of operations, a sergeant of operations, a lieutenant of operations, a chief deputy of operations, and the sheriff himself. It's one thing I want to take a look at. I'm not saying it's done wrong. It's just something I'm curious about. The other thing that I want to take a look at is what standards need to be met and how we're going to address those standards. I'm gonna start to implement some things that we can all collectively agree are gonna be for the best. One being that open door policy for transparency, and I wanna work internally when I say this, because there's great deputies there with great ideas that I feel I'm sure are not being ramificated. They've done the job, they know the job. Let's work within and start to focus on what we can change as a team. I don't intend to go in there as this elected sheriff and stand at the table and bark orders. That's not what generals do. Generals surround themselves with subject matter experts. If you look at any general that's won a war, he hasn't done it by himself. He's worked with all the people around him, subject matter experts that say, this is the good advice, this is what we need to move on. And we start working internally.
Okay, Josh.
That looks like a good question.
Well,
Took a minute.
Share, is that share? Okay, so I'm just gonna,
Interpret.
I'm gonna ad lib here, and please share your experience, I think, right?
I think so.
As
My son
an
wrote that.
officer of the law
My
and
son
any
wrote that.
leadership positions held.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry, whoever wrote
That
that,
was
I
my son
can't, I
who
just
probably
can't get your son.
Just like me. I put my son to sleep. No,
Very
so,
quick.
Yeah, so you're asking
Yeah.
what leadership, I mean, that's pretty simple. I'm an E8 in the military. I didn't get that overnight, and I didn't get it by just sitting behind the wheel. I have to have quantifiable and justifiable leadership every single year to get evaluated. It's not evaluated by my peers. It's not evaluated by my friends. It's evaluated by subordinates. The last 4 years, I exceeded the minimum requirements. So anytime we talk about leads, there's a spot for leads, and for the last 4 years, it checked, exceeded standards. I was ranked number 1 for the last 3 years as your emergency preparedness liaison officer for the state. I represented the Department of Defense down at PEMA and FEMA. During COVID, I was the one who got to sit here and watch these requests come through. I worked on the logistics, the planning, the response, the recovery, the financial side of the military. And I worked with the keys of PEMA and FEMA and AR North to make sure that, I think that's well enough leadership. I worked with my state partners down at Operation Allies Welcome. I worked with the FBI, the CIA, the Air Marshals, the National Guard, my state and local partners. I mean, immense amount of leadership, and that's what I bring to the table for you. Is you want someone that's going to have leadership, we can absolutely bring to the table for you.
John?
I think when you look at the question of leadership in law enforcement, you first have to define what law enforcement officer is. Because it can be thrown about, but it is very specific to what a law enforcement officer is. So holding a law enforcement leadership position really has to qualify the question. And I'm a lieutenant with the sheriff office. I've worked in every position there for 12 years. I'm also a member on the board for the Domestic Violence Task Force. That's a pretty good leadership for the community and serving some people in domestic violence. Also work on the board, the advisory board for the tech prep program here. I spent today doing the NOCTI testing with the seniors. It's great to do that. That's leadership affecting generations of people. And I'm also a CIT, crisis intervention team, also CISM trained, crisis management for officers in trauma situations. So leadership takes a number of ways, one of which is understanding mental health, being able to serve people and help interact with people out on the street and sometimes dire situations where we can help them through that time. So leadership probably has a number of different type of descriptions, but you also do have to define when you say law enforcement because it is a very well-defined area.
It was actually officer of the law, not law enforcement. Semantics.
Well, I mean,
Next question.
There's only 4 types of law enforcement registered in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania per Title 75. It's state police, municipal police, deputy constable, or deputy sheriff, sheriff and constable. So it covers the base.
Right.
But not military, that's not law enforcement. That may be leadership, but when he cited a lot of military type
This
of
isn't a
leadership,
debate.
that's
This
an
is not a,
officer.
this is not a
Well, we're
big debate, and
qualifying
he
law
already,
enforcement.
he already explained in the beginning of this that he was an officer of the law.
Yeah, but he was
Yeah.
citing a lot of military experience, which isn't law.
But he was also a police officer.
That's fine. I wasn't doubting that.
Right,
I just
yeah,
learned-
it's
I
not,
just
it's
learned
not a
about that.
debate between me and you or you two. Please share your 2 priorities
Two
if you
priorities.
were elected. 2 priorities.
The first is safety for our office and our deputies. That's always utmost for safety, and that involves training, the way we conduct ourselves, and the way we make decisions to do things and carry out the law that we do. That's number one. I'm going home at night. I want my deputies to do the same. The second is conducting our business safely for people to also have resolutions to what they're facing with the courts or warrants and that type of thing. That has to remain utmost for the priorities.
Okay.
Everything else stems from there.
So the two priorities are definitely a great question. One obviously is the thing that I really want to focus on is relationship building. We need to fix that. Not only with our community but with our state and local partners. That's one thing that I've taken a lot of time in the last 8 years to do, to be that first phone call when there's that missing kid. They call me out because we carry drones with us or thermals or all of those things. To support these local law enforcement is big. We need to fix some of those relationships. The other thing is being transparent to every single person here. Every single person here is interested in who their next elected sheriff is, and I think it's important that you guys understand who we are and have that transparency. And sir, I'm making eye contact with you. You should have the right to call me just like the commissioner does, just like Paul does, just like anybody in this room does. They have the right to call me and ask me and have an open communicational dialogue. And the reason that's important, I can tell you since day one as a constable, day one, my phone number has never hidden from any single person. I've taken calls at 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the morning, 5 in the morning, 5 in the afternoon. My wife can attest to it, sometimes at dinner. It's important that you guys have access to your elected officials. Every single person in this room, it's important that. The moment you give that up is the moment you start to give away your rights.
Chrissy is always available.
Sorry for the ones in the back. Your phone numbers are not published, I promise.
No, I won't share them.
I'm in the book.
Yeah, see? But you understand what I'm saying.
I'm so old, I'm still in the book.
But it is. It's important.
Remember the book? Must be an old book.
It is. It's just important that people understand that. And when I looked at potentially doing this, I thought I did 3 things, and I'll make it real quick.
Actually, you can't
Okay,
make it real
good.
quick because
I'm
you're
done.
taking my last
Good, I'm
question.
done. I'm done. Promise.
So in closing, why should, in your closing, include why Adams County voters should give you the keys to the sheriff's office for 4 years? 90 seconds or less.
Sure. Thank
I'm
you.
timed.
Well, my life journey really has prepared me for such a time as this in many ways. And I also think that my current training and experience has made me well suited to step into the shoes of Sheriff Mueller. And I think we can throw a lot of terms out like experienced, educated, and transparent. They're like almost buzzwords in political campaigns. But you really need to look at what experience behind the words. And my experience as a deputy sheriff sets me apart from my competitor, if you would call it that, and prepares me for doing the job and continuing to build the office as we have it. As a deputy sheriff, I had to attend the 760-hour 5-month academy. I think according to the PCCD, a constable has 40 hours of training with 40 hours of firearms experience. There's a wide gap in that, and in order to be the sheriff, my competitor would have to attend the 760-hour 5-month academy at Penn State and pass the PT test to do so. So that's a step you may not want to do. If you're hiring someone to fly an airplane, don't hire someone that says they know how to drive a car.
That's a good one.
Absolutely. So to caveat to that, I'm going to bring this when we talk about training, knowledge, and experience because they're buzzwords. There's 18 years of training, knowledge, and experience. Am I going to have to attend the academy? I've never once hidden that from anybody. Absolutely. You know what that equals? John, I took a look. It was 560 hours when you went
760.
through. But it is 760 now.
It's
With that being said, I'm excited to bring back 760 hours of brand new training to everybody in here. That means I can come to you and say, I'm the best qualified suitor right now. We can't say that right now. I love what Sheriff Mueller has done with the Sheriff's Department. It's great. But we got to stop kicking this can down the road. We got to look at new young leadership. Everybody wants to talk about, hey, we have to have good leaders. We have to have young leaders. Absolutely. I'm standing right in front of you. I'm right here willing to take on that task. I got broad shoulders. I've been called a whole lot worse throughout this campaign and so forth, and I'll continue to drive on. It's important that we understand this younger generational leadership needs to step up, or stop complaining. I'm here to step up and say I'm ready for you guys. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight, and I thank you all very much.
Thank you.